Hey hackers, welcome to the Commit. I'm Richard.
And I'm Neil.
So Neil, we got a new hackathon this week.
Absolutely. Apache Spark Makers Build. Long name, great hackathon. The deadline's August 3rd. There's over $100,000 in prizes. And the goal is to use Apache Spark, which is a data analytics toolkit that runs on big clusters, and using that to solve a real business problem. So something in customer care, marketing, risk management, or operations.
So something like an intensive kind of large data problem?
Yeah, you're gonna find some data, analyze it, and sort of explain how to make your analysis and your insights actionable.
That's very
something
cool.
we can actually use.
So talking about analyzing data, we recently released our latest student hacker report. So this was based off a lot of questions that we asked people going to hackathons.
We surveyed about 1,700 hackers at 80 collegiate hackathons across the US about careers and recruiting, and we published all of our insights about that a couple weeks ago. So if you haven't taken a look at it, I hope you do. Today, we decided to bring in Cassidy Williams, one of our friends from Clarifai, to talk a little bit about the report and kind of how, some of the recommendations she has for hackers who are sort of entering the job market these days.
Fantastic. Let's hear from Cassidy.
So Cassidy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the hacker report. So some of the, I think, key things that we pulled out of that were that people was a really important part of the recruiting process. In fact, I might even go so far as to say that people is culture to a lot of people.
It totally is, because they give you a taste of that culture. And if you don't like the people that you're interviewing with or potentially working with, then why would you work there?
Right, I mean, I imagine it's kind of difficult to take a job at a company when maybe you haven't met more than a couple of the people there.
Right, exactly. I always advise people, if they're on the edge because they don't know many people, to ask if you can have lunch with the company or something, just that way you can kind of see what conversation is like, what the people are like, do they get along, that sort of thing.
I think you work with people, but you can learn tech. It's a little harder to learn people.
Right, exactly.
Another thing that was really important was that, going back to learning, is that learning is maybe almost even a little more important than compensation.
Yeah, if the salary is a difference of I don't know, 5K either way, it's not that big of a deal as long as you're learning something. And I think that's something that a lot of employers don't actually realize how important that is to developers.
How do you advise students to get over something like impostor syndrome, which might even prevent them from applying for a job?
So first of all, don't have it. I mean, it's much easier said than done. There was some psychological research studies that said that 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at one time or another. And there's so many different ways of combating it, and there's so many ways that people deal with it that's not necessarily the best way, where they might try to be extra charming or extra personable to try to hide the fact that they don't feel very good. So ways to combat it are to kind of watch your language. Make sure you're not saying, oh, I should be doing this, or I used to be good at that, or it's just this bug that I fixed, because that just kind of tells yourself that it's not a big deal. When it is a big deal, you did something that actually matters to the company.
So you should own it.
Right. Own your accomplishments. It's very hard to own your accomplishments sometimes when you have imposter syndrome, and it's also very hard to accept compliments. And so practice accepting compliments, practice owning your accomplishments without sounding too arrogant about it or anything. You don't want that. But just don't let your insecurities overcome your abilities.
How would you advise students to sort of approach their job search, maybe before they get to the interview?
So before you get to the interview, there's a few things that I recommend. First of all, make sure your cover letter covers a few different points. You'd be surprised how many cover letters I get where it's just hi, I'm Cassidy, blah, and then they just go straight into, I should get this job, rather than explaining who they actually are. You want to make sure that you're getting the job to learn, you like the company's tech, you're interested in them, you read their website. Just look at their website, it's not that hard, and find a few points that you can throw into that
Or look at their
cover letter.
Devpost team page, if they've got one.
Yeah, do that. And then also just kind of say what you can bring to the table and how you can contribute to that. If you find out, oh, this company is a Django shop, say, hey, I use Django in this class project or on this side project or at a hackathon. And so not only show who you are, why you like the company, but what you and the company can do together. And then after seeing that, I want to see extracurriculars. I want to see what you do outside of work, whether it is more coding or something that shows you're well-rounded, you like singing on weekends or eating tacos, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of going back to the idea, if you want to know more about your coworkers, you want to know more about the people you're interviewing too. You are more than just a developer. You have a life.
Right, exactly.
And it's important that you can maybe let some of that through and show it.
Well, that was great. It was super interesting to hear what Cassidy had to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. That's all we've got for this week, hackers. We'll see you next time on The Commit.